I turned 25, and that's when everything flipped. Life took a turn. I remember not knowing who to turn to or where to go, but it just happened. So I started kind of isolating myself a little bit, self-medicating, not sleeping. It just started downward spiraling from there, and I didn't know what was happening to me at the time, but now that I look back, I know that it was going into mania. So I remember one day I rushed to my family's house, and they were like, something is wrong, something is not right, we have to take you to the hospital. I didn't understand what was going on at the time, so I was just like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital, you guys are after me, I need help to get away from you all. So then after that, my family decided that they were still going to take me to the hospital, and that's when my journey with mental health finally began. Hi everyone, my name is Khadijah Abdul Azeez, and I am living with bipolar disorder. So growing up, I'm the second oldest of 12 children. I was homeschooled, and growing up during those times, I didn't know anything about mental health. I didn't really have too much education on it. I just remember it being tough on me, very tough, because we grew up in a very militant household. And so everything was very strict, everything was very closed in and boxed in. So with that comes a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, just with different caretakers that were surrounding me that caused a lot of just physical and mental abuse. And around 18, I had to leave the house and be on my own. So even that is very traumatic for me as well. So I was on my own for a while. But in that experience, it just taught me that there's so much more that people have within themselves that causes these type of traumatic events in our lives. And when that happens, all of it comes out. So even though these things happen in childhood, none of it really revealed itself until later on in my life. And I was just like, wow, these things happened to me. And now it's finally coming out within this whole spectrum of breaking down mentally. When I discovered my bipolar disorder, it was in a dark place. I just remember not knowing what was happening to me. Why is this happening to me? And is this something that's permanent, or did it just happen one time? I remember being in that hospital and just looking around at the others around me and seeing everybody around me and just in shock. I was in shock, my family was in shock, we were all in shock. My mother, she was there supporting me the entire time. She even told me a story about her mother having something of that kind, but we don't know, because in her generation they didn't go to hospitals and they didn't go to people for help. So she said that her mother had some type of diagnosis that went undiagnosed for a very long time until she passed away. I never got to meet my grandmother. But my mother, overall, strong woman, 12 kids, and having to deal with all of us at one time. She's an amazing woman, incredible woman. And my mother been through her own trauma as well, stuff that I know about and I don't know about. And I just know that she's trying her best, and now she's helping me push forward to at least try my best as well. So having been hospitalized was the turning point for me in my life, to where I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to change the world in whatever way I could, in whatever shape I could do that. And I remember taking a step back and saying, okay, if this is now part of my life, how can I help others with it? This is the only way that's gonna make me happy, if I help others with it. So I decided to become a peer specialist based off of the experience that I had. And a peer specialist is someone with lived experience that now counsel other people. So I was getting certified as a certified peer specialist, and I was in the classroom, and we do 2 weeks of intensive training and stuff like that. And I was sitting with one of the students that was next to me, and he introduced me to NAMI, told me about NAMI, and said, I think you would be a good fit for it. And as soon as I heard about it, I said, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm signing up right away. I'm gonna go talk to them. I remember being in the NAMI room, and I was doing the In Our Own Voice. and we had to stand up and I had to share my story. And in the sharing my story, I remember everybody in the room just looking at me like, wow, this is incredible. And I remember me shaking or me not wanting to share it, me still leaving parts out because of the shame and the guilt. And I opened up to them and I let it be known, just my story. And in that moment, I remember people just were either teary-eyed or they were looking at me, or they came up to me later and said I felt the same way. And it was just an eye-opener that I need to share more. I have to share more. I have to let out my voice. Even if it's scary, I have to share it because there's someone out there who's feeling the same way I'm feeling, which is sitting in the room saying, wow, she's sharing my story, which is she's sharing the same things that I've been through. And that was the first time I shared my story. It was nerve-wracking, it was scary, but when I saw the responses of the people around me, I knew that I had to keep doing it. So the power of support groups is incredible. Being in there, it's like you have a family around you. You have a support system. It's just like a comforting feeling. It's a vulnerable feeling. What it did the most, it made me more vulnerable, made me more able to share my story authentically, even though my voice still shakes sometimes, even though I'm scared or I think someone's gonna judge me. NAMI still has pushed me to share my story in such an amazing way. In such an amazing way. And just the support group, how it taught me to share my story in a positive way to where I can not only share the dark side, but come out with a light, come out in now this is what I'm doing now, this is what I did because of this. I just never thought it was here for us. I never thought this was an opportunity until I got into the support groups and got with NAMI. I remember taking my iPhone out. I had a cracked iPhone at the time, taping it up to the wall and saying, hey, I'm gonna speak to the world whatever way I can. And I remember just sharing about my story. I started opening up about my story, sharing about the things that I was going through, whether that was with NAMI, getting certified, sharing all those things with the world. I didn't know how they were gonna take it, but they took it very well. People were responding to my story. People have responded saying that they were diagnosed as well and that I should keep going. From there, that's when I started finding the light and the hope and saying, okay, I can be a motivational speaker. I can speak about this. I can go to schools with NAMI and do an End in the Silence. That's basically going to schools and speaking about my mental health story. I started writing a book. I decided that I wanted to be a writer as well, and I started writing about just my trauma, the healing that I had to go through, and what that looks like in my story. I got help, made sure that I was in therapy, so I take my medications on time before I was going through this journey where I wanted to do holistic and thought that was gonna work for me, and I was doing it for a little bit, and I eventually relapsed, went back into the hospital, and that's when I started realizing that the medication is for me and that I needed it. So that helped me become way more successful in my life, and I don't wanna stop taking it now because I realized that that's something that I need, and I'm proud of it. And I continue to want to write books. I want to do TikToks. I want to do YouTube videos. I want to do other videos just to speak to people about mental health and share my story in each and every way that I can. NAMI to me means family. It means support. It means vulnerability. It means sharing your story from a most authentic and beautiful way that you possibly can. And to me, it means strength.